So we move into what we call In the Zone in the Provincetown Players. And as I said, in 1913, he had kind of decided to be a playwright. And his father was pretty excited. He had a direction in life, so he helped him publish Thirst, which is O'Neill's first book from 1914. And also around the same time, paid for his tuition at Harvard to take a playwriting class. I think he lasted even a shorter time there than he did at Princeton, maybe one semester. Is that right? But he did learn a lot. He studied from one of the best of the time, and so he was kind of on his way making his mark in theater. These plays that he was writing were very different from what James O'Neill, his father, was starring in, which were much more popular entertainment, kind of escapism. And O'Neill was very much interested in realism, kind of the darker aspects, the lower classes, the grittier side of life. So we also have here an inscribed book to Bob Sisk, Before Breakfast, from 1916. This was one of 3 plays that O'Neill actually appeared on stage. He didn't have any lines. He was just
just his arm.
Just his arm coming through it as the off-stage husband, right?
Who slits his throat.
Yeah, he really had no feeling, no future in acting, and he learned that right away, and so he was kind of joking about it in this inscription. We have other items here that are also inscribed to Bob Sisk, and so you'll kind of see these are early publications. The Dreamy Kid is a early play. Tomorrow is his only published fiction. And In the Zone, an early sea play where he is also diagramming some stage setup. So Harley, Bob Sisk is a very important person to your collection. You want to talk about him?
Yeah, so Robert Sisk was the publicity agent for the Theater Guild. The Theater Guild was a big organization that was in the 40s and the 50s, and they produced a lot of O'Neill's plays and a lot of other playwrights. They produced their plays at that time. And O'Neill became friends with Sisk and his wife and inscribed a lot of books to him. He wrote a lot of letters to him, and inscribed a lot of photographs to him. He had a lot of stuff. And when he died, his daughter got a hold of it. A lot of the stuff I get because somebody gets it and they want money. So his daughter wanted money. So his daughter got a hold of a dealer. They were called 5 Quail Books. And in this A.B. Bookman I saw that this O'Neill collection was advertised. I asked that I be sent the catalog, and it was wonderful. There were 115 items. It was great. This is in 1982. And he was selling the whole collection for $28,500, which is a lot of money now, and certainly in '82 was a lot of money, and especially somebody who was just in practice and had 3 little kids, and like, okay, that was nice, but I've had a pass on it. So about a year later, I contacted the dealer and I said, hey, what happened? Because he told me he was going to, Yale was interested, and all these people were interested. Well, it was still around. Nobody bought it. So what I talked him into doing was to let me buy things piecemeal. And I negotiated a price for each of the items, which it turned out that the total I spent buying everything piecemeal was a whole lot less than the original price, and I ended up getting almost the entire thing. And so really, this purchase sort of put my collection on the map. It really added a lot of bulk or heft or importance to the collection, and I went on from there.
Yeah, so the Provincetown Players, I should mention that they were a off-Broadway experimental theater group that O'Neill joined in 1916 in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Their first theater, quote unquote, was an old wharf on the seashore, and they staged these one-act plays that they all were writing and starring in and producing. Then they moved to New York City and starting mounting plays there. And so this is how O'Neill really got his start with this theater group. Very much artistic control. They could really experiment. That's something they couldn't do in the mainstream theater. We have a couple of Provincetown playbills here, original from the premieres of, one is from All God's Children Got Wings, which is about an interracial marriage. Very controversial at the time, as you can imagine. It caused death threats, and they didn't know if it could go on, but it really did. It was a big success. SS Glencairn is a collection of 4 or 5 of his early sea plays that you'll see there. It has something by Joseph Conrad on there too. And then we have also a photograph of his second wife, which Harley mentioned, Agnes Bolton. He met her in a saloon that they called the Hell Hole in Greenwich Village in 1917. They married in 1918, and she was kind of a bohemian, also a writer herself, a pretty successful writer of commercial fiction, I would say, for periodicals, I think mostly. But they had 2 children together, as Harley mentioned. And also in the middle here, we have a letter from O'Neill to Richard Madden, who was asking to be his agent. So this is 1918, and this letter kind of showed that O'Neill was thinking about this before scholars had originally thought he was trying to get an agent, as he found more success with these plays. And then lastly, Harley, this watercolor by Frank Hanley is pretty significant as a visual of the Provincetown Playhouse. Do you want to?
So most of my collection was acquired before eBay. Actually, you can find a lot of O'Neill items on eBay now. And this is one of the few ones that I purchased on eBay in 2015. And a lot of fun I had with the collection. I'd order something, and I'd wait for it to show up, and sometimes, there wasn't much to it, and I'd put it on my shelf, and I'd go on to the next one. But other times, there were things that I really could do a lot of research with, and those were the ones that were a lot of fun. And this watercolor, when I got it, it's this guy. He lived. Frank Hanley was a New York cartoonist and illustrator who lived, born in 1895 and died sometime in the 1980s. And there's a drawing here of the Provincetown Playhouse, and in the window it says the Emperor Jones. So the Emperor Jones was produced 3 times in Provincetown Playhouse in Greenwich Village, in 1920, 1924, and 1926. So even though it was produced then, he could have done this watercolor in 1970. He could have done it at any time. But what's interesting is, if you look right next door, there's a little restaurant or a little place called the Copper Kettle. And I really had to look hard to find anything about the Copper Kettle. There are no images of it. There's nothing anywhere. And I found an obscure reference that the address is on it, that it was there in the 1920s next door to the Provincetown Playhouse. So if somebody did a watercolor in 1970, there's no way they would have known that the Copper Kettle was there. In order to include the Copper Kettle in the watercolor, they had to do it at the time that the Emperor Jones was there in the 20s. So this is really the only depiction that we know of the Emperor Jones at the time it was in the Provincetown Playhouse. There are photographs of the interior during the play, but there are no photographs of the exterior of the playhouse advertising the play, The Emperor Jones. This is really the only image we have of that.